The Global GT Championship is growing fast, and a record field of 54 cars turned out for round 4 at Silverstone. Amongst them were a couple of very famous Grand Prix stars of the past making a return to Britain as the Italian Bugatti team, one of BMW's crack touring car outfits, used the race as an extended test session for next month's Le Mans 24-hour race. But surely Jacques is a bit past it by now.
I think if you are in your head able to drive, maybe 60, maybe 65, 70, why not? It depends how you are. If you want really or not. But if you want, it's not so difficult. You are sitting, really comfortable now. No.
Nelson, when did you last race at Silverstone?
Oh, I don't remember. I think it was 90.
Has the track changed a little bit?
Well, when I drove here the day before yesterday, I said, I'm not in Silverstone anymore. Maybe I'm in Caldwell Park or Truxton. I don't know what it was, but it's not Silverstone this thing here. I have to change the name. I should change so much the circuit. I should change the name too.
It's a bit slower than it used to be.
Oh, it's a big rubbish now. No, it's no good. It's not Silverstone anymore.
While Lafitte at 52 and Piquet at 43 may be past their Grand Prix prime, Eric Bernard at 31 is still happy to be in sports cars.
Of course, because the GT is a very high level this year, and after Formula 1 I'm very happy to be in the GT because I'm very surprised by the level and by the performance of the car.
Not so happy with life at the moment is Harrods man Andy Wallace, a winner at Silverstone last year, but not having a very good run this year.
We've led every race. In fact, I've done 3 races in Europe in the BPR series and 3 races in IMSA in America. I led every single one and lost every single one. I'm thinking that this has got to stop right this instant, and perhaps we could start winning at this race at home.
But winning at Silverstone wasn't going to be easy, as Piquet's co-driver, BMW touring car star Steve Soper, had jumped from 300 horsepower to 600 and instantly set the pace.
They're lovely to drive. I realised what I've been missing for the last sort of 10 years driving these very difficult touring cars. I mean, a touring car needs a special technique, where this you can get in and guerrilla it all the way around and have a lot of satisfaction.
Now this man Soper's turned up and gone sort of seconds quicker than anybody. I mean, what's going on?
Well, first of all, he's making us all look silly. This is his first race. He comes along and blows us all away. This has got to stop too.
Well, yes, Andy, but that's Steve on pole and you're back in 10th with 5 McLarens, 3 Ferraris and a Lotus up ahead. Mind you, there's 4 hours of racing to go as the field is unleashed from a rolling start. Soper leads from the fast-starting Ferrari of Michel Ferté, and then Eric Bernard's co-driver Jean-Marc Gounon, with Pierre-Henri Raffanel leading the rest of the field in his Gulf McLaren. Soper, Ferté, Gounon, Raffanel, John Nielsen, Lafitte, Jan Lammers in the Lotus, and then Wallace ahead of Anders Olofsson in the second of the E-Gol Ferraris. The new breed of GTs made a colourful and impressive sight. By lap 6, the leaders are already amongst the back markers. Just ahead, Lammers has dropped back to 9th, in front of championship leader James Weaver in the second Gulf McLaren, as we ride with Fabien Giroir in his Muller McLaren and pick our way past a Porsche. Up ahead, Wallace is handed 6th by Lafitte, who spins his McLaren into the gravel, tries to drive out of it, but almost inevitably gets bogged down. At least Jacques owned up.
I make you wrong, not on third gear, on first gear, and I spun.
Never mind.
No, it's not finished.
Also due to Hit's trouble was the blue Ferté Tavernier Ferrari, which dropped away, leaving the E-Gol F40 of Gounon to chase Soper at an ever-increasing distance as the Englishman's Le Mans development continued to plan.
I'll go fairly hard in the first hour. I'm starting the race, and if we run out of tyres, well, we've learnt the lesson. As I said, this is a test for us, it's not a race.
On the track, Wallace and Weaver now battle for 5th, both having spent qualifying seeking a good race setup.
At Jarama we went flat out because the tyres were great. Here, where they've resurfaced Stowe and Bridge, the track's very, very aggressive and it's tearing the left front tyre off the car. So we've set the car up to try and alleviate that, but how hard you can go, we won't know till the race.
Double stints, single stints?
No, mate, do a single, stop, have a cup of tea and let the boss carry on for a couple of hours.
By now, you might have noticed the GT boys don't take themselves quite so seriously as the Grand Prix superstars. 1 hour done and the pit stops begin. Wallace from 5th, then the Lotus of Lammers from 7th, on a conservative run, reliability being their major concern.
I think we were happy with the pace. It's their reliability, and that is in process now. So we might be in the next lap, we might be in 2.5 or 3 hours. So that is our big question at the moment, and we're trying to nurse it.
Weaver was next in to hand over to the boss, Ray Belm.
Seemed to be a little bit slow this afternoon. Hard work? It is. Say that again. Okay, you know, the balance is good, but just a little bit short of grip. It's sliding about a bit too much.
So perhaps too conservative then was your race plan for tyre wear?
Well, we seem to be wearing the tyres out all right. We're just seem to be going slowly doing it, whereas Steve's obviously going fast doing it.
Mind you, Steve Soper wasn't going quite so fast as we spoke because the Bugatti team had stretched their fuel consumption a tad too far and he only just made it to his pit. Steve, you shouldn't stay out for so long, you know, the petrol won't last forever.
Well, this is the hard way of learning. It's better now than at Le Mans.
Nelson was also remembering that you mustn't forget to bring your own seat when you share a car. How did the tyres last there? How did the experiment work?
Yeah, fine, no problem at all. The car was still quick. We could keep the Ferrari at pace every time he went a bit closer. I demoralised him, or tried to demoralise him by going quick. Everything went to plan, just we were a bit too marginal on the fuel, really. That was the only problem, and unfortunately the display in the car wasn't reading out, so we had to go by a consumption. We were wrong.
A case, perhaps, of being sorry rather than safe, and now the lead Bugatti car had some catching up to do. But at least they were better off than the Raphael Owen-Jones Gulf McLaren that shed a wheel and put them out of the race, a fate shared by Giroux and Delatraz, whose Muller McLaren broke its gearbox. Before the second hour was over, Nielsen's McLaren had also dropped back, so when Olivier Griard took the Harrods McLaren past Bernard's Eagle Ferrari, it was for the lead. Just on half distance now, the leading McLaren is in the pits. The Harrods car battling very hard with the Bernard Ferrari. About 50 seconds behind them, the Bell-Weaver Gulf McLaren fights with the Lotus of Lammers McCarthy. But it's here in the pits that the Dave Price crew are really winning this race for Harrods at the moment. In the Gulf pit, Ray Belm stays on board as fuel is added and tyres changed. At Lotus, Lammers waits for Perry McCarthy to finish his first full racing stint for longer than he'd like to remember.
That was a bit of hard work, oversteer. Very, very hot in our cockpit. But I'm very pleased to see that Lotus are right up there. Could be the podium, I'm saying, Tiff. Could be the podium.
Everything working fine?
Yeah, the car's great, it's just me.
Behind the fight at the front, Nielsen and Bichère hauled their battle-scarred McLaren back to 6th, but they wouldn't get any higher. The race has still got another hour and a quarter to run, so it doesn't look like the Ferrari's going to be able to make it on just these 3 stops. It's going to have to come back in once more for a splash or dash for fuel, and that could be crucial. The Ferrari's high fuel consumption was good news for Harrods team manager Dave Price.
Ferrari won't, yeah, he'll have to make another stop. If we stop on schedule, we got just one stop on the hour to do now.
One final stop that once again went like clockwork. At Bugatti, the Le Mans dress rehearsals were also going well, and Soper stayed on board for a final charge to 4th, leaving Nelson to contemplate his leisure activities. But now that you're in England, will you be going down to play some golf with Nigel?
Oh, no, I'm still playing tennis now. When I get old and like 60, maybe I go play golf.
That mischievous twinkle is still in his eyes. On the track, Weaver was now fighting desperately to stay ahead of an inspired Jan Lammers, who had his Lotus pit in a state of shock, not quite able to believe what was going on. When he forced his way up the inside of the McLaren to grab second, and then pull away, he proved the Lotus reliability jinx really had been broken as they took a thoroughly deserved second place. But there's only ever one winner, and today there will be no denying the Harrods McLaren of Olivier Griard and Andy Wallace.
It's too difficult to watch for an hour. I hate it. All those times it's gone wrong, at least it's gone right this time.
Just before Le Mans next.
Absolutely, that was a dress rehearsal.
A rehearsal for GT victory perhaps, but at Le Mans in 2 weeks' time there's a strong prototype entry as well. But you never know.